Yeah, let's unpack this word hacker. I mean, when most people hear it, you get this instant image, right? Some like shadowy figure hunched over a keyboard in a dark room, pure digital villainy. But that stereotype, it's everywhere, but it totally misses the mark. The world of hacking, it's not really about skill level, is it? It's more complex. It's this whole spectrum defined by, well, two key things: intent and authorization. So our mission in this deep dive is to get past those stereotypes. We want to really analyze the black hat hacker, the malicious adversary. And here's the paradox. Their criminal actions have, kind of accidentally, driven the entire evolution of modern digital security. And not just security, but international law, corporate risk. It's huge. We're going to look at the history, some of the most notorious digital outlaws, see how they changed the game, and then, look at the pretty scary new threats coming up. Okay, so let's start with the basics, laying down the ground rules. What's the fundamental difference here between the folks building the walls and the ones trying to knock them down?
The simplest way to put it, it often comes down to a contract. Seriously, that color of the hat, white, black, gray, it really boils down to those two things you mentioned. Are they authorized, and what's their intent? The line between, say, committing a federal crime and doing a highly paid consulting job can literally be a one-signed piece of paper. A statement of work. So, the white hat. That's your authorized offender, your ethical hacker. They operate with explicit permission, usually contractual. Their job is defensive. Think penetration testing, controlled social engineering, all aimed at boosting security and compliance before a real attack happens.
Right, they're the pros hired to find the weaknesses first.
Yeah.
The sentinels. But even for them, it gets murky sometimes, doesn't it? Our sources mention this tension. Like, to really test a client's defenses, a white hat might need to poke around a third-party vendor system.
Exactly.
And if that vendor hasn't given explicit permission, even if the white hat's goal is just to protect their own client, technically that's unauthorized, illegal even.
That's the gray area, precisely. It shows how the legal side struggles to keep up with protective intent sometimes. Now, contrast that with the black hat, the malicious actor. Their intent is always self-serving, always harmful in some way, and their actions are flat out illegal. Mostly, it's financial gain ransomware, stealing data you can sell. But you also see state-sponsored spying, revenge, even chaotic hacktivism.
And a key point here, black hats aren't just lone wolves anymore, right? The sources track this evolution.
Yeah.
They have become these professional criminal groups.
Yeah.
Operating like actual businesses, specialized roles, franchise models. It's wild.
Absolutely. It's become industrialized. And then, stuck in the middle, you've got the gray hat, that ambiguous zone. They hack without permission, but maybe without real malice. Often it's curiosity or this misguided digital vigilantism trying to expose flaws they think companies should fix.
But that first step, the unauthorized access, that's the tripwire, isn't it? If they find a flaw and just blast it out publicly before the company can patch it, even if they thought they were helping, they're basically giving a roadmap to every black hat out there.
Precisely. That's often where good intentions meet. Significant legal and ethical trouble. Reckless disclosure.
Okay, so let's look at some of the major players. The actors who, through crime, fundamentally changed how we think about digital security. By showing just how weak the systems were, we looked at 5 key cases that really map out how Modi's evolved. Starting with the guy who basically proved security is a people problem, Kevin Mitnick.
Mitnick, Back in the 90s, the DOJ called him the most wanted computer criminal. But interestingly, he wasn't known for massive financial theft. His thing was intellectual property, stealing secrets from big names like DEC, Motorola, Pacific Bell. His real genius, social engineering, pure manipulation.
He just got that firewalls don't mean much if someone inside just holds the door open for you. That story about him calling a Motorola employee, pretending to be a colleague, and convincing her to email him proprietary source code, that says it all. He played on trust, not just tech vulnerabilities.
And the way the legal system reacted back then, it was almost, comical in its lack of understanding. There was a federal prosecutor who actually told a judge Mitnick was so dangerous he could launch a nuclear missile by whistling into a payphone.
Wait, seriously? Whistling into a payphone to launch nukes? That sounds like bad 80s movie plot.
Right. But it worked. It led to him being put in solitary for a year because they genuinely didn't know how else to handle the perceived threat.
Wow. But that fear, however overblown, points to his real legacy, doesn't it? Mitnick forced the whole industry to admit the weakest link isn't the technology, it's the human using it. Security thinking shifted, overnight. It wasn't just about firewalls anymore, it was about people. And that directly led to the whole security awareness training industry we have today.
A fundamental shift, yeah. So if Mitnick showed us people are the soft target. Who first translated that vulnerability into, big money, cold, hard cash? That brings us to Vladimir Levin, 1994.
Levin. Right, the first really big public online bank heist. St. Petersburg. He hit Citibank's corporate clients, nabbed something like $10.7 million. Though I think they got most of it back eventually.
They did, and it's often called an internet hack, which isn't quite right. He didn't go through the public internet. He targeted Citibank's own private dial-up system, the Citibank Cash Manager. It ran over an older network called X.25, a closed system, essentially.
Interesting. And there's that counter-narrative, too, right? That Levin maybe wasn't the mastermind. Some sources suggest he might have just bought the how-to guide, like the instructions for exploiting that specific vulnerability, bought it from a more skilled group in St. Petersburg for, what, like $100? He was maybe just the guy who executed the plan.
Yeah. Whether he found the flaw or just bought the key, the impact was massive. The story went global. It completely shattered the public's early fragile trust in electronic banking. And that directly pushed huge security investments. Citibank came out with their dynamic encryption card, basically an early form of two-factor authentication. And it was definitely a factor, a big one, in pushing Congress to pass the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, GLBA, in '99. That law forced financial institutions to take information security seriously at a federal level.
Okay, so from Levin's big smash and grab, we moved to someone who turned it into an industry. Albert Gonzalez. This guy took cybercrime to, factory production levels between 2005 and 2007. Over 170 million credit card numbers stolen. TJX, Heartland Payment Systems, Barnes & Noble. Huge breaches.
His approach was chillingly systematic, often started with war driving, just driving around, scanning for retailers with weak Wi-Fi, then using SQL injection to break in. Once inside, he'd plant these sniffer programs, and they'd just sit there on the payment networks, grabbing credit card data as it went by, because it often wasn't even encrypted back then.
The direct losses were staggering, obviously, hundreds of millions. But the ripple effect for every company handling card data was huge. Regulation. Gonzalez's crime spree was the reason the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, PCI DSS, went from being sort of guidelines to mandatory enforced rules. That was the moment security stopped being an optional IT thing and became a core financial risk everyone had to manage.
Exactly. That's the fascinating shift Gonzalez caused. Cybersecurity moved out of the server room and straight into the boardroom. It became a fundamental risk management issue tied directly to the bottom line. The sheer cost of cleaning up those breaches, the fines, the lawsuits, it created an undeniable business case for spending on security. It basically fueled the multi-billion-dollar compliance industry we see today.
Okay, so we've seen personal gain, intellectual property, massive financial theft. Now let's pivot. Ideology and disruption. Anonymous. Showing up around, post-2008. This decentralized global collective, bound by ideas, not leaders. Yeah. The Guy Fawkes mask symbol.
Right. And their main weapon isn't usually stealthy infiltration, it's disruption, noise. The distributed denial of service or DDoS attack, that's their signature move. It's like a digital sit-in, just flooding a target's website or servers with so much traffic that they collapse, go offline. We saw it with Operation Chinology against Scientology for alleged censorship, and Operation Payback, where they hit Visa and MasterCard for cutting off donations to WikiLeaks.
So Anonymous really pioneered large-scale hacktivism. They proved that this leaderless, almost hive mind entity could actually challenge huge, powerful institutions, which must be a nightmare for law enforcement, right? They're everywhere, nowhere, transnational, no clear leader, makes attribution, prosecution incredibly hard, creates massive jurisdictional headaches.
Absolutely. And that kind of amorphous threat leads us to, the most chilling evolution, the Lazarus Group, active since at least 2009. This isn't your typical criminal gang. This is widely believed to be North Korea, a state-sponsored group, part of the RGB, their main intelligence agency. And they have a dual mission, old-school espionage and generating cash illicit revenue for the regime, specifically for its weapons programs.
And their methods are just destructive
and
varied. You look at the Sony Pictures hack in 2014, they didn't just steal data. They used wiper malware designed to brick systems, destroy data.
Exactly. Malice, not just theft. But the moment they truly redefined the game, showed black hat activity as actual asymmetric warfare, was WannaCry, the 2017 ransomware pandemic.
WannaCry, that was terrifying.
It was a crypto worm that spread incredibly fast using that NSA leaked vulnerability, Eternal Blue, and it showed the potential for real-world physical harm. I mean, it crippled about a third of the UK's National Health Service hospital trusts, forced them to cancel, over 19,000 appointments globally. People couldn't get treatment.
So Lazarus really cemented this idea of black hat hacking as a tool of state power, an instrument of war almost. And now their focus seems to be these massive cryptocurrency heists, right? Just grabbing hundreds of millions in crypto to fund the regime. It completely blurs the line between cybercrime and, well, geopolitics. This whole evolution is just staggering, from one guy tricking someone on the phone to a nation state crippling hospitals. So here's where it gets really interesting for you listening now. How are these incredibly professional criminal outfits using new tech, like AI? How are they evolving their business models right now?
AI is the big one. It's the new force multiplier for them. On one hand, it lowers the bar for less skilled attackers. On the other, it massively boosts the sophistication of attacks. We're already seeing generative AI craft these hyper-realistic phishing emails, spear phishing messages that are perfectly tailored, perfectly contextualized. Honestly, they're getting so good, traditional security awareness training might soon be totally insufficient.
So AI is basically weaponizing that first lesson, Mitnick's lesson about human vulnerability.
Yeah.
But making the deception almost impossible for a person to spot.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's not just email. Think about deepfake attacks. AI cloning an executive's voice perfectly, making a phone call, maybe even a video call, seeming completely legitimate, authorizing huge fraudulent wire transfers. And beyond the deception, AI will make malware itself smarter. Evasive? Future malware could analyze the network it's in, identify the best targets, and then modify its own code on the fly to avoid being detected by security software.
Wow. Okay. And on the business side of crime, it's gone fully industrial. You mentioned ransomware as a service, RAIS.
Right. RAIS is terrifyingly efficient. You have skilled developers who create the nasty malware, but they don't launch the attacks themselves. They lease it out, rent it to affiliates all over the world, often taking a cut of the profits. It essentially democratizes high-end cybercrime, makes powerful tools available to way more people. And their extortion methods keep escalating. It's not just encrypting your data anymore. Now it's double or triple extortion. They encrypt your data, and they steal copies to threaten public leaks. Sometimes they'll launch DDoS attacks too, or even contact your business partners to pressure you. Increasingly, some groups are even skipping the encryption part, it's slow, and just focusing on stealing the data and extorting you with the threat of leaking it. Faster payout.
And then there's this convergence you mentioned, the lines blurring everywhere.
Exactly. Nation states using criminal RAIS groups as proxies, giving them deniability, hacktivists maybe using tools originally developed by states. It makes figuring out who is actually behind an attack and why incredibly difficult. It creates this really messy, chaotic threat landscape.
So let's try and tie this together. The legacy of these figures. Mitnick, Levin, Gonzalez, Anonymous, Lazarus. They weren't just criminals, were they? They were, in a weird way, catalysts. They forced change, often painful change. Mitnick showed us security is about people. Levin proved digital trust is incredibly fragile. Gonzalez hammered home that security is fundamentally about financial risk.
Yeah, connecting it to the bigger picture, it really highlights that cybersecurity isn't a problem you solve. It's an unending arms race. There's no finish line. The battle has to be fought constantly. Technically, yes, AI defending against AI systems, and economically finding ways to make launching attacks more expensive, less profitable than the potential reward. But ultimately, I think the arms race remains cognitive. It's about the human mind. As attackers get better and better at using AI for deception, for evasion. Your last line of defense, the most critical one, becomes a well-trained, constantly skeptical workforce. People capable of spotting and resisting incredibly sophisticated manipulation, even when the tech fails.
So, the final thought for you to chew on. What does this all mean for you personally or for your organization? Ask yourself this. If the latest attack tools can learn, adapt, and change their own code to get around your defenses autonomously, how much longer can you really rely just on the technology, the firewalls, the antivirus? When does human skepticism, that critical thinking, officially become your most valuable security asset?